My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance was alcohol. My behaviour could be just as addictive: work, relationships, materialism, collecting, looking right, pretending to be alright. Put a lot of energy into an act of being okay, and behind the brave face, well, probably a lot of fear. But the problem is, when we've lived with a condition for a long time, we don't even recognise it anymore, and we just live with overcoming it. And for me, fear was a great starting point in life. Fear of life, not feeling good enough, or feeling less than other people, not quite understanding what the plot was about living in the day. So why? And simply because I learned about fear early on. Fear of what other people thought. And as time went by, what did I find? A drink would take the edge off, help me feel convivial, part of, included, accessing feelings which seemed to be suppressed. So alcohol for me did the trick. It made me able to function, I thought, as I ought to be, rather than maybe finding out how to function and be me. It's quite a distinction, actually, because we are driven often by what we think people think, rather than feeling what we feel. And the difference is, if we're always trying to live up to another person's standard of who we think we ought to be, we're never going to get there, because we're driven to perfection. And it's all about love. Behind all of this is wanting to be loved, being able to love back and be useful. So we are driven by the right motives, if you like, to be included, to be loved, to be part of, and to have those things which we think we ought to have. But, and the big but is, there's an awful lot of work to do. So if we try and take shortcuts with our feelings and emotions and learning how to develop our own personality and life, the shortcut being, in my case, alcohol, for conviviality and inclusion, I don't know how to do it in recovery, and it's taken an awful long time to understand that I need to learn every element of life on a daily basis, and that is the true way to grow and develop as a spiritual human being. So what is spiritual? Well, it's simply living in the moment of now for me, the ability to cope with what is happening around me, to be aware in a sober way or in a sober frame of mind, and experience life. So what's the difference now? 35 years of drinking, taking the edge off, suppressing feelings, being motivated to be successful as I thought I ought to be, putting on a brave face and front for the rest of the world. Well, it was exhausting, and I was tired out by it. And I went to a meeting of a fellowship which I belonged to, Alcoholics Anonymous, last night, and that was pretty much the message I was receiving from other people as well. So with this similarity of being driven to drink, to become dependent and then addicted, it left us in a place of abject misery, broken down, at a rock bottom maybe, and at a place where we found we needed help to get out of the predicament. And if we're lucky, we get to that place of understanding we are in a place of rock bottom, we cannot do it on our own, and we need some help. So for me, I was very lucky. I was kept alive long enough by family, friends and community that I got to AA. And I was a very reluctant student, and sometimes even today I can be reluctant about the truth of now, what is happening around me and what is acceptable. And there's a big difference between what is acceptable to me and acceptance sometimes, because what is acceptable to me is perfection. Still, it flutters in and flutters out from time to time. But you know, the real answer is to make progress and not perfection. So for me these days, in recovery, one day at a time, just one day, it's the best time frame ever given to me to live and to make use of my time and utilise and understand my emotions, what is possible, what is not possible, and how to go about living in the moment. So fellowship is integral to my recovery and sobriety, and it's been some years now. But what I know more than anything is, whether we're one day sober, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, or decades, we all face the same situation on a daily basis, that we need to start with the expectations as low as possible to let the world in. Because if we expect something to be the way we want it to be, it's hardly likely to happen. It's more likely that if we set the expectations low and open our eyes to the world and what is happening, our choices are probably quite limitless in terms of possibilities. Doesn't mean they're going to become realities, but the possibilities are far greater with us open overhead. And I'm glad to be here today. So, how does fellowship help me? Well, I'll share the AA preamble or statement of intent, and then one of the readings from the daily reflections. And the statement of intent goes like this: AA preamble, shared at every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And two sentences there always stick out. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. You don't have to stop drinking, it's just a desire. And then the primary purpose is to stay sober and help others. And the reason why these videos were done in the first place was simply because a lot of people I knew couldn't get out and about. So I was sharing experience, strength and hope of going to meetings of AA and what it was doing for me. And you know, last night was great because somebody who's been expecting a baby has had it, and was back at a meeting after a week, and it was a wrench to come out to a meeting, which is quite natural and normal, but they were so glad to be sober, and two sober parents, man and wife, in the meeting, very happy, beyond their wildest dreams, obviously, the reality of being parents, when in fact that was never on the agenda in drinking days, maybe, certainly not even in a relationship. So, you know, life happens. And the gift is we can all celebrate that, because there's nothing like good news about new life, and that's what the fellowship affords: a new life in recovery, a new way of looking at the world, open to. But January, in this book, Daily Reflections, is all about the 12 steps of AA, changing attitude and behaviour on a daily basis, and we learn the steps over a period of time, and we need life experience to actually learn how these steps can be put into practice. But the first step, which is covered in this book in January, is all about powerless over alcohol. It reads, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable, and that is in the present tense for those who are still drinking and alcoholic, and in the past tense, life was unmanageable or less manageable when we were drinking. And then we have a daily reading, and today's is the victory of surrender. Whoever thought that surrender might be a victory? We perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps towards liberation and strength. Our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be a firm bedrock upon which a happy and purposeful life may be built. When alcohol influenced every facet of my life, when bottles became the symbol of all my self-indulgence and permissiveness, when I came to realise that by myself I could do nothing to overcome the power of alcohol, I realised I had no recourse except surrender. In surrender I found victory, victory over my selfish self-indulgence, victory over my stubborn resistance to life as it was given to me. When I stopped fighting anybody or anything, I started on the path of sobriety, serenity and peace. And you know, that's coupled with an understanding that not only do we become very selfish in our disease, we do in fact have a disease and a malady which is an allergy to alcohol, and it makes life hell. So what helps me on a daily basis when life can turn to hell again is that serenity prayer to God or good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is simply just for today.